Hi everyone, Yodel here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new John Prine album, The Tree of Forgiveness. This is the latest full-length album from country and folk rock veteran Mr. John Prine, who has been dropping records pretty consistently since the early 1970s, but it wouldn't be until later in his career in the late 90s that he would actually pen one of the genre's greatest love songs and duets. That's the song In Spite of Ourselves, which just one look at the lyrics on this track. They're so funny, they're so endearing. I mean, really, you put this song on any mixtape for Bay? That's a win. And while this track might be one of Prine's biggest songs, one of his most totally out of nowhere hits, it's not like this track is all that unique in his discography, meaning that Prine has always had a way with words in that he never really minces them. From the song Illegal Smile off of his self-titled debut, where he's singing about drugs essentially being an outlet and how him doing drugs to feel better or gain some kind of catharsis isn't hurting anybody, or the track Don't Bury Me off of the Sweet Revenge record a few years later, an album where Prine dabbled in just a touch of outlaw country. But Prine is really no outlaw. He's not a gun-slinging badass or anything like that. He's just a songwriter who does a really great job of balancing balladry with bluntness, talking about how he's okay with being fried up in a pan by cannibals as long as he has his woman on the song Aw Heck, or describing like this wild courtship and rug burns that he has going on with this Iron Ore Betty woman a few tracks later on the same album. When it comes to love and life and social issues, there's nothing really off the table for Prine. And while he has mellowed out over the years a little bit, and his voice has never really quite been the same since his battle with cancer in the late 90s, he still has a way of putting things that very few other artists do. And now that he's transitioning into his twilight years, I would say he's putting a heaping helping of charm to kind of sweeten the harsh reality of a lot of these lyrics too. I mean, I hope I'm half as charismatic as John is on this record when I'm his age, because his warm personality just pours through on this album. It's so goddamn likable. Pretty much all the tracks on this record feature very mild, rustic instrumentation laid to a somewhat pristine recording. The performances on this album feel incredibly organic and intimate, many of them riding tried and true chord progressions, which if you are a folk or a country music fan, you may have heard them before. And topping these songs is, of course, John Prine's warbly, slurred, and somewhat gravelly voice. Which of these three sides you're kind of hearing of his vocal, I think, depends on the song, the emotion of the track, the sentiment. Given Prine's age, his voice is actually still quite dynamic. Occasionally there's a track in the track list that might lack in Prine's usual wit or grit. I think the song Ordinary Blue is the biggest offender of that, as it just kind of sounds like one of the most ordinary tracks on the entire record. And there are moments where this album is so sentimental that it hurts, which some listeners might just find to be part of his charm on tracks like Boundless Love, or one of my favorite cuts on the record, the quaint and endearing I Have Met My Love Today. But outside of that, there are some real and undeniable highlights throughout much of this LP. Certainly the case for songs like Egg and Daughter Night, Nebraska, 1967, where Prine writes lyrics about aging, about Southern culture, about truth, against some really sweet saloon piano and organ, some clapping, some nice background vocals. Toward the end of the track, Prine's lyrics deal more in getting old and deteriorating. He's clearly an artist who not only cries in the face of low points in one's life, but also laughs. The song Caravan of Fools is easily one of the darkest cuts Prine has ever recorded across his entire career. And I feel like one of the things that has allowed him to do that is just the gravelly, just tremendous dark depths of his vocal range now. The song almost seems to be about the negative side of human nature, maybe not stemming necessarily from some sort of inherent evil, but ignorance or idiocy driving people to make horrible and stupid decisions. This record also kicks off with a hootenanny of an intro, the song Knockin' on Your Screen Door, which is a track where John kind of closes his eyes and it kind of takes him back home. All of this imagery of laundry hanging and it being summer, the train tracks. What most likely inspired this song is, in the process of writing this record, from what I understand, Prine's family essentially sent him to a hotel hotel because I guess in his experience he does some of his best writing on the road at hotels. So he was totally out of his house, out of his element, and just had to kind of sit there and write these songs in that hotel. In the lyrics to this track, I kind of get the hint that he's writing from that standpoint where he is here, he has to work on this stuff, but he's feeling incredibly homesick. There's also the Lonesome Friends of Science, a song that kind of hit me as being almost like Prine's inner Randy Newman coming out a little bit. In a way, the track is almost a little anti-science or anti-progress in Prine would rather plead blissful ignorance than understand the truth of life and the world around him. But I still thought it was kind of quaint and interesting how it almost seemed like, according to him, that he doesn't really care what's going on in the world outside of himself because he doesn't feel like he lives in it. He feels like instead he lives inside his head. And I can kind of understand and sympathize with that mindset when one gets up in age and maybe wants to keep their day-to-day life as stress and drama-free as possible, so you just kind of give in to the most simplistic approach to day-to-day life and your worldview just to kind of keep things moving smoothly. Either way, the song has a note of serenity to it that I love, and again, John's blissful ignorance on the track is kind of intoxicating. The song When I Get to Heaven is a closer on the album, and maybe one of the funniest and most profound on the entire record. The track is part narration and part song, and the track is all about everything that he'll want to do once he gets upstairs, so to say. That he'll have a cocktail, he's going to smoke a cigarette that's 9 miles long, he's going to kiss that pretty girl on the tilt-a-whirl, everything that he either shouldn't or can't do on the earth now. Deeper into the lyrics of the track, he's talking about getting back into show business and inviting some choice critics to his venue, forgiving people who may have wronged him in the past, and getting back together with his family, talking about how when he was younger, his dad said, "When you're dead, you're a dead peckerhead." And that's it, and he's hoping to prove him wrong. The record rounds out at 10 tracks, 30 minutes or so, and it's a sweet little album. It's not Prine's greatest artistic feat, nor is it, I think, his most profound set of tracks. But for the most part, Prine's age and experience work to his benefit on this record, greatly. It leads to lots of insight, charisma, and very authentic sap. And also to mention once again, the simplistic instrumentation, Prine's aged voice, are incredible on this record for the most part. I'm feeling a decent to strong 7 on this record. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, John Prine, forever.